Because
It'd be cool if we catch some of them, you
some
know,
of those are
some
vintage.
real spirit.
This is Flo and Joe Misnick. They're the residents of the house. They're currently the owners. They've owned the house since 1986 to the present time. And we're going to talk about a few things that they've experienced. We're just going to talk about what they've experienced here, and knowing that we talked about the psychic from Buffalo that stated only elderly people could live here. This is going to be the relatively minor things compared to what happened with the Dandies and the other families that have moved into the house, but very, very important in the whole process. And Flo, I'm going to direct this to you at first. About 6 years ago, you had an experience up in your bedroom upstairs, which is next to Mary's room at the time for the Dandies. Could you explain exactly what you experienced that morning?
Well, I was sleeping and I woke up. I felt the presence in the room. So I lifted up my head and looked, and there was a young man all dressed in denim, had denim pants, jacket, hat, and most of it he had a shotgun holding down by his side. And I asked him, "What are you doing here?" And he says, "I don't know." So I rolled over to get out of bed, and of course when I turned around, he was gone.
To follow up on that story, about 7 years prior to that, there was two brothers on the hill up here, probably a half to 3/4 of a mile. They got into an argument, and one of the brothers was a little inebriated, and he shot his other brother. They got in a horrible fight. He shot his other brother, killed him. I told this story at a local restaurant after Flo had told me about it. And there was a gentleman that was sitting in one of the booths, and he got up and walked over, and he said, if I hadn't heard what I just heard, I could never have believed it would have happened. He said, I was one of the EMTs that was on that call, and he says, I was beating on that boy's chest. And he was wearing denim pants, plaid shirt, a denim coat. There was a hat laying on the ground, and the rifle was there next to him. And he said, I just could not believe. He says, how would that elderly lady know all those things? There was nobody else there. So how did she know what that boy was dressed in? Totally impossible. So that just actually sort of validated what Flo had just said. And it was an amazing story with an amazing validation of what she went through. So then I had to go to Joe. I go, Joe, you saw this white light out over the road.
That's right.
Go ahead. Tell them what you saw.
Well, I went over to the cornfield to see if there were any deer out there because it was near deer season. And I happened to look down McMahon Road, and there was this bright blue-white light shining right in the middle of the road about 5-6 feet off the ground. So I was curious as to what it was. I walked towards it. As I walked towards it, it suddenly did a 90-degree turn and shot across the hayfield and was gone in a split second. Where it went, I don't know.
And I have a question for you both. How did you come to live and buy this house? I've always wondered that. How did you get from Buffalo to here?
You're the star of the club.
My daughter had a camper at Shangri-La on 98, and we were out there for the weekend with her. And we saw the paper from Franklinville that advertised places, for sale and rent and so forth, so on. So we called a number of the people that were given it, and they made an appointment and we came and they showed us this house plus some others. And we fell in love with this one because this is what we wanted, a country home. We both wanted to live in the country. And so it was 23 years ago this month that we bought the place.
Joe, it's rather interesting how you found out the place was so-called haunted. How did you find that out?
Well, I went down to the American Legion to join up, and after filling out the papers and everything, they were questioning me, where do you live? So I told them. They said, oh, you live in a haunted house, huh? What haunted house? I said, I don't know anything about a haunted house. Oh yeah, that place has a terrible reputation. So I came back and told Florence about it, and she called the woman we bought the place from and asked her, how come you didn't tell us the place was haunted? And she says, well, you don't believe in that stuff, do you? And that's how we found out. Muffled voices.
Yeah, that's a good one. Because
Okay,
that's
you
been a
wanna-
history.
We're always hearing muffled voices, and we're always smelling cigar smoke.
What
Uh-oh.
the heck?
Did you feed them yet?
No, I haven't fed him yet.
That's why they want. That's what.
Well, he was doing the driveway, and I've been feeding him over there so as not to have him around the house.
Ye
Old.
UFO store.